I could not be happier right now as I am joined, fresh off of his return to the wrestling ring. Nick Aldis, man, how do you feel?
So tired.
I can only imagine.
Oh my God, I was so blown.
Were you?
Yeah. Like everyone talks about this and it's like, oh, there's nothing nothing replicates like working in the ring, and it's like, yeah, and it really is true. Like I've been doing the most intense, hard like conditioning workouts for the last couple of weeks, like to try to get, and like genuinely never ever trained that hard my whole life, and still just like 4 minutes in, I'm just oh my God. Like,
It's funny. I was literally, I think today on Sirius, I think it might have been Cardona. He pointed out, I can't wait to see this. There's a difference between
he's gonna be blown.
in-ring conditioning and cardio conditioning.
That's what that's the first thing I told Ed Koski.
Yeah.
When I first found out about this, where I was like, look, to find out quite out of the blue, like you can have a match with one of the top guys in the world, right? Top guy in the company, SummerSlam in a stadium, like amazing, right? But then, like when he told me that was in Saudi Arabia, and I went, when is SummerSlam? Say August 1st, right? Today's June the 30th or June the 29th, and I was like, that's a month, And I go, Ed, like, there's a big difference between like physique shape and like ring shape. And I go, I am not in ring shape. Like, you have an awful lot of faith in me to, because obviously, like, without having too many conversations, I've had a pretty good idea of like what it was going to be.
Sure.
And I was like, yeah, that's great and everything, but it's like, I talked about this on Chris Van Vliet this week, where I said, like, I think the most sort of surprising part of all this was how casual, like, Triple H and, upper management seemed to be about this. And I was sort of like, no one's kind of gone, are you ready? Like, can you do this? Like, like, are you good with this? Like, everyone's just kind of, match with Gunther. Like, I haven't worked in 3 years. Like, what are you doing?
And of all people with Gunther.
Right.
It's like the one guy you don't want to get
Right,
exhausted in there with.
Right, a huge, like, killer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
So were you surprised? Like, were you kind of did the reality sink in that I will probably fairly quickly lose oxygen?
yeah.
Or 4 minutes in, were you like, oh my God, this is so much worse than I thought?
I think I blew up in my entrance.
Well, I mean, it was Oasis, to be fair.
Right. Like, again, absolute, like, I don't want to get too, soppy about this. I already did that on Chris Van Vliet, and I'm like, never done that before. But Morning Glory was like, I would always listen to that song, and I would always like visualize, like, God, this would be a killer entrance song, like, and you think, like, I mean, I was talking about when I was a kid, right? Like, when I was like, like, God, walking out, and then, like, right as that bit kicks in, and then as you sort of progress in the business, and you start to sort of figure out how things work, I sort of put it to the back of my mind, like, it's not likely, that's not going to happen. And then Hunter texted me a couple of weeks ago and said, perfect world, if you could have any music, if you could license any music for you, any song, like, nothing is off the table, just like, what would you have? And I just was like, and I kind of went through my sort of mental, and I went, Morning Glory, so I just, and he had mentioned something about, like, maybe something British, a British band, like something like that. And I suddenly went, like, Morning Glory. And I was like, well, I thought it won't happen, but I've got to ask. I've got to at least.
He said perfect world.
Yeah, exactly. And I literally, I text back, ideal world, right? No restrictions, like it'd be Morning Glory by Oasis. In my mind, I'm thinking, but okay, it probably won't happen. I sent a few others, like some other ideas, like Muse and like Sabian, a few other things. Thinking like, well, they might be a bit more manageable.
Sure.
And and like,
Yeah.
and didn't hear anything more about it. And I just kind of thought, it's all right, whatever. Yesterday at SmackDown, kayfabe, but we got Morning Glory, and I was like, whoa, like what? Like sitting in the production meeting, like they're getting ready to, the production meeting environment. Everyone's like very like prim and proper, and all right, let's go through to SmackDown, and I'm sitting there like,
Yeah, I mean, what has this month been like? To go from like, you got a job here, you're the on-screen general manager, you're a producer off-screen, that's the gig, and and you're good at it, and you like your gig, and that's what you do. And then, I mean, I've got to believe this whirlwind starts, where you're like, first you find out you're going to have a match.
yeah,
Then you find out how invested the company is in this match because of the amount of segments, the fact that you're in that main event spot on Saturday night's main event to kind of show the
the
world
thing at the Garden,
and to gauge that interest, and then you get the theme song and everything. I mean, have your feet touched the ground?
they're just sort of doing that now. I think. Like
Over the last month.
yeah, like I think I did get a bit overwhelmed early on because I was a couple of times. Like I think it was probably about a week after I found out, like the next time we were at SmackDown, and it was sort of, now obviously people are starting, some people know that we're doing it, some people don't, and so then I've sort of got Michael Hayes and people like that kind of going like, hey, you just do whatever you need to do to get ready, and but because most people still didn't know, I was sort of keeping it under wraps, and like. But then I remember going back to the hotel and just going like, what are you doing? Like, can I even do this? Like what? Like, it's 3 weeks, So sort of thinking of myself in Gorilla and thinking, oh God, I get quite, I get nervous, like just going out to do GM stuff. Well, of course, right? I mean, anybody, adrenaline and everything.
Yeah, sure.
And then I was saying, wait a minute, like I'm going to be in my gear and I have to go and have a match.
Big match.
Like, well, like I haven't done that in 3 years. Like, whoa, just.
And then there's the other, I'm sure, wrestler thing, which is, I don't even believe it's going to happen until it happens. Did that ever occur to you? Once the thing was said, it was like, oh my God.
I wasn't concerned. Well, you know what's funny? When it was first, like I said, it first went out in Saudi. And Ed did sort of go, well, card subject to change. And I kind of went, I'm like, Ed, I'm going to have to just work on the basis that it's happening. Because like I have to go and get ready. So I said, I'll tell you what, like I'll just work on the basis that it is happening, and just and then if it isn't, at least I'll be in better shape.
Yeah, worst case scenario.
Right. At least I'll have better cardio. All right, but yeah, I think that's just a sort of default thing that I pretty much have to do when they tell talent, like, card subject to change.
When did you go and get new gear made?
Rick Michaels does my gear. He's done my gear for years and years. So he once he sort of saw what was happening, he texted me and was like, oh, are we doing some new gear? I was like, yeah, of course, yeah, let's do it. I mean, it's the same design, just new, fresh stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's me, right? It is Nick Aldis from,
it's the same Nick Aldis.
WWE.
I mean, that's the story of this happening over the course of 30 days is insane to me, because I remember, a few years ago, you came over to my basement.
Yep.
To talk about, the fact that you were moving on from one company, and to really have a conversation about where you want to go.
Right.
In the business.
And I think then you pointed out then, you're like, I wouldn't mind seeing a Gunther against Nick Aldis match.
Is that right?
I think
it's so funny.
I think he was NXT champion at that time.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
and I think we were
talking-
discussing like,
How great would it
what if
be?
he showed up at NXT? And I was like, man, that's some great guy. And you were like, oh, I could see you working with Gunther.
Koski
You know?
listen to Not Saying Wrestling? Is that what's going on? Is that what we're saying? But I find it so amazing because part of that conversation we had it off the air too is like, you know, when you're talking about the things that you would like to do,
Yeah.
that's a delicate thing, right? You know, and I think it's really remarkable that like you come to the WWE, you have this incredible other life, this other part of your career, and I would think I speak for a lot of fans and I'm sure you hear it all the time. People are very fond of you in the general manager role.
Yeah.
You know, you do a great job at that. But the idea that this thing that's always been a goal, which is to wrestle on a high level for the WWE,
Right.
when you're not sort of campaigning for it,
Yeah.
when you're not bringing it up to people, you know, I could still go, I could still go.
I
When you're
never,
just like,
never, ever once did that, and I sort of take quite a lot of pride in that. Like I never, ever lobbied, never went to Hunter or Bruce or Michael and said, "You could put me in an angle with it." And trust me, there were many times where and this is not to throw shade at anyone, but you know, there were many times where I would see certain talent, you know, and sort of go, how do you like? I could have nailed that, you know. Like what are you doing, you know? Like have some intensity, you know, or something, right? Like
I know what went wrong there.
like
I could have done
you
that
know,
better.
And I said, you know, I'm my own biggest critic. So as far as the match goes, I'm just going to have to sort of take people's word for it. And look, standing ovation from a stadium, you know, at the end, and like my family being there and everything, like, you know, that's you can't manufacture that. Like, so to a certain extent, I obviously did something right. Having said that, you know, from my own, I think every wrestler does this. You compare your performance to like your peak, like best performance. Like for me, that probably would have been like the 2 out of 3 falls match with Cody or something like that. Sure. Like, if, you know, and so in my, you know, that like then I was like, I didn't blow up. I was just like on my, just, you know, everything was crisp and tight and like, but timing was perfect. I was, you know, but I was working all the time and all that kind of thing. So I'm sort of comparing everything to that. So to, you know, this match, I think, oh God, I felt like I was in quicksand, and I was, like, so, you know, oh God, I was like so tired, and that was, I should bonked my head on the ring post, all these things. But you know, overall, yeah, like to sort of to get that sort of moment, you know, that sort of oh wow, like I really like manifested something in that was a moment, that the entrance and all that, it was like something I manifested from, you know, for like 20 years, probably, maybe more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
It's amazing, dude. It's amazing. What was it like today for you to put your gear on and to warm up and to get ready the way, you know, the boys get ready?
I've had a camera follow me around all day, and so I've been sort of articulating my thoughts on some of that. And I said this earlier, I wasn't really sure how that was going to go, but actually, once I sort of got here and went, everything, my sort of normal routine sort of kicked back in. Like, what was weirder was packing my gear again and stuff like that, because I was sort of like, well, what do I need? Right? Like, because, you know, that sort of thing you have a sort of, okay, right, boots, ankle braces, knee wraps, pads, tights. Like, you went, you know,
walking around like you're on the indies going, you guys got any tape? Can I borrow some tape?
yeah. Like tape, baby oil, you know.
Yeah.
That's the best at WWE. They have all that stuff. So
That's perfect.
Towel.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I forgot a towel from the hotel. Like, you know. Like, oh, they've got a stack of them. And so spoiled.
Yeah. That's true, but now you get to use
rolls and rolls of tape.
Yeah, but you've never
so much oil.
But you've been a GM so long. GMs don't need oil and tape.
I know.
For you to go in and be like, can I also?
I need some, yeah.
Do I get to use these?
Right.
I can use this.
Yeah, I've seen this stuff lying around. Yeah, I can have some. Yeah. I need it. I need it for yeah.
I mean, man, and by the way, all the guy following you around is part of a vlog that the digital team is doing, which I can't wait to see because they've been doing amazing stuff this weekend.
I felt like I wasn't necessarily giving the most compelling content maybe during some parts of the day because I'm just, I'm just like at some point I was just sort of like, I got to concentrate. I don't know what to say, just like.
Luckily, they're magicians. They're going to make it look amazing.
Right, but to your point, to your earlier question, it did. I'll tell you what big boost to my confidence was the reaction to last night at SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really strong reaction. And then as soon as I came out of the ring, I just sort of showered, got in the car, and started driving to Minneapolis from Green Bay, and I didn't sleep particularly well, more just from a sort of adrenaline and stuff, but like, got okay. But then today I was just sort of dialed in and, I was like, right, time to go to work. Like no more overthinking anything. Just, just get to it. Right. Like,
I mean, I think too, the thing about it is that you can be, I'm sure, far overcritical about yourself and thinking about the cardio or feeling like you're in quicksand or whatever it is. But with wrestling, from a fan perspective, it's the story. It's the only thing that matters is the story. And I think that it makes me happy for you is how much people have just clung on to this story. And I told you, I think when I saw you around Fanatics Fest, that the reaction that you got at Saturday night's main event, to me,
that was big.
It was not the easiest position in the world. It was a make or break position.
Sure.
Because you are interrupting this match that people are invested in. And there were people going, you know what? It should be a 4-way. That would be the better finish. Mm-hmm. And you've got to be, it's like, okay, here I am. Do you want to see me in this match or not? New York.
Right.
New York, you have to tell the world.
How much do you care about me getting a receipt on Gunther? Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
and they cared a lot. And then to your point, both last week and this week on SmackDown, they cared a lot. And then in that, I mean, dude, the entrance, from the time you walked out on that stage tonight, everybody was like, we're getting it you've got the standing ovation afterward with your family. I mean, we were all on board with this story. And I think it says a lot about you because I would imagine that most of the people in this stadium did not follow the NWA.
Right.
We're not watching TNA when you were there.
Right.
A lot of fans have not been watching for
or if they know it's more a sort of passing knowledge, just
or maybe they saw the package.
They've seen a clip or they sort of know, but they didn't really actually they weren't there,
But they were completely on board with the story, and it was a good guy versus a bad guy, and everybody wanted to see this moment for you, and I think it's a very rare thing in wrestling.
It is. It's rare in 2026, especially because it's like a lot of shades of gray, and everyone's probably a little bit overexposed. Social media and all the ancillary content and all that kind of thing. Just that it's a little bit hard to create a sort of mystique and a demand and a curiosity. And we were able to get all that, and that's obviously it. Like I say, you have to sort of. I always say in wrestling, you have to play the hand you get dealt. I think I'm a testament to that, certainly. And you have to sort of look at the pros and cons that come with all the different opportunities that come your way. And yes, okay. It was maybe a little disappointing at times, or frustrating that I get to be this, but I don't get to be that. But because I was this for this amount of time, it built this curiosity and it built this intrigue and this kind of, and so then now I do get to be that, and it's special.
And it creates a moment that is so unique to you.
Yeah.
That's your moment. And that's not one of the Nick Aldis moment is the
and it
Nick
was me,
Aldis
right?
moment.
It was me. It was my name. Yeah. Mickey told me, and I think she tweeted about this too, that last night in Green Bay when they were chanting "Let's go Aldis," my son, he's grown up around wrestling. He's been around wrestling his whole life, so to him it's just sort of like mum and dad's work. But he sort of went, he goes, "Mum, they're chanting for our family," like, and she was kind of like, "Oh yeah, you're right," you know.
Yeah, because it is
Kind of,
you.
yeah,
It's your
right,
name.
right,
Like, it's-
yeah, right. And it's for him. It is surreal for him to hear like a whole arena chanting his. Oh, that's my name.
That's my
kind
name.
of, right.
Man, well, I can't say congratulations enough. I think it is so cool to know that we went from my basement with you trying to figure out how are we going to figure out what's next,
yeah.
to sitting here in a WWE locker room in a stadium with you in your gear after a standing ovation from tens and tens of thousands of people that were all on board for this journey. Is this a one and done in the ring, or are we?
I don't know. I've said from I came in with no expectations. I come out with none. So
We don't know.
you know, if it's there, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You think you have more in you?
sure. In the right circumstances, yeah.
I love it. Nick, man,
Thanks,
congratulations and thank you so much.
Thank you.